Welcome, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We're so excited to have you here. So for anybody that's just joining, we're going to take a couple of minutes to get settled in. So in the meantime, feel free to grab pen and paper, quick bathroom break, anything like that. But we'd love to know what's on your spring bucket list this year. Jody, I know you did some light gardening last year. Do you have anything on your bucket list this year?
Oh, just to spruce up the same space. Yeah, we did an overhaul on the flower bed natural garden in the front last year. So just making sure that all those plants get pruned and refreshed. That's our
Love
goal.
that.
What about you?
We just got baby chickens, so that's definitely a project in itself. And then we got our first raised bed, so we're starting to plant some peppers and get seeds started. So
Nice.
it's definitely feeling like spring here.
Awesome.
Lauren, what about you? Any spring
I'm going
plans?
to piggyback on Jody's. I got the planter boxes built and installed last year, but I didn't actually put anything in them. So this year, I'm
Nice.
actually putting some, I think I want to start with vegetables. I have a massive yard that during COVID, I just put sod in everywhere. And now I need to actually do some gardening. So step one is I think I'm going to start with the vegetables, do something easy. I'm in Denver. Zucchini grows like a weed here. So probably something like that.
Yeah, any squash is like fair game and will get crazy for you. So that's awesome. And I love that, like, sometimes you got to break it down season by season and be like, all right, didn't get there last year, but we're at least prepped for this year. So that's awesome.
Yes. And hopefully
Looks
we're
like
done.
in the chat, a lot of spring cleaning
Yeah.
is going to be
Yes.
happening.
Maddie, I love that gift. Spring cleaning and definitely getting through some of the junk. Love it. For anybody just joining, we'll give everybody kind of another minute to settle in. But in the meantime, we're talking about what our spring bucket list is. It is really cool to see how many people say like starting a new project or cleaning out some of the clutter and decluttering and that sort of stuff. I think it's so funny that a lot of us have this natural pull for spring to be like, all right, everything's coming out. I'm cleaning everything.
I think it's because we all hunker down during the winter. So we're surrounded, we notice all the stuff and all the clutter during the winter because we're in it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's a good point. We're all like inside more. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and get started for everybody. So welcome. Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is part 2 of the Game Changers. So we're going to be talking about some of our favorite Keeper features that are already built in that it even takes us a little bit to kind of find our bearings and find something really cool. But we're going to share things that are already in Keeper that you may or may not have come across. So that's what today is all about. So if you haven't met Jody or I, we are a part of Hughes & Strong Consulting. So we each had our own separate business in the bookkeeping industry, but came together because we're such big nerds about systems and wanting to get things working well. So you can find us usually reading the tech log or playing around in our demo in Keeper. But one thing that's really important to us that you'll hear as a through line is there isn't a right way to do things for us. So everybody has their own different ways of doing it. So part of this will just be integrating different ideas and inspiration so you can find what's best for you and your firm.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Getchie, and I am the implementation team manager here at Keeper. I'm based in Denver, Colorado. I used to be a teacher, former teacher, which ties really nicely into our customer success team because that's what we're all about, is teaching our users how to utilize our platform. And I've actually been with Keeper. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary this June. And my favorite feature is the client portal, which we'll be diving into today. And then I just wanted to call out where you guys can find volume 1 of this series. We held it back in November. We went over some similar features. We went over customizing email templates. We also went over unconnected clients, as well as close status notifications, utilizing your daily task list, setting up client details, and some adjustments you can make to tasks and reports within Keeper as well. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, we have this QR code. You can scan it. If you also just go to our YouTube channel, you can find it there. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you do so, because we will always post recordings of these webinars, and then you'll get notifications when new videos are uploaded.
Yeah. Thanks, ladies. Today, we are going to jump into some more. We're going to highlight some more key features in Keeper, show how people are using those, including some creative examples to get those to get you inspired, and then to explore how you actually set them up if you find any that you want to try.
Amazing. That being said, we're going to cover a good amount today, and I want you to be really careful about how much you add on top of your own shoulders. Like, a lot of us are getting spring fever and want to play with new projects, all for that. But if in doubt, think about it like a buffet where you can take what you need at this point and come back for another plate later on. So just want to be careful that you don't should on yourself and that you just see these as opportunities, but be really careful and really strategic in this season of your business with what you bring on, so you don't pile yourself in shiny object syndrome with a bunch of half-started projects.
All right. And with that, we'll dive in with our first feature, recurring questions. This is a way that you can automate requests that you ask over and over again.
So some common uses of recurring questions are to request, for instance, monthly bank statements from your clients. So you can set this up so instead of every single month you have to log into Keeper and write out the request every single month, we can actually set that up to recur. So each month when your client logs into the portals, they see a nice list of those bank statements that they need to upload for you. You can also set recurring questions to collect things like payroll timesheets, inventory counts, cash on hand balances, anything that you find yourself requesting every single month or even weekly.
Absolutely. And then we've also seen this get kind of expanded on. So you can actually go in and, let's say you have a monthly meeting with your client at the end of the month after financials are finished. You can have Keeper drop in that email or drop in that client portal question to remind them to schedule with the scheduling link. You can also do things that are a little bit more customer success style to help your clients remember that their annual report is going to be due, or just reminding them to renew in other areas of the business that you know are coming up based on their transactions.
Yeah. I forgot to mention this at the start, but please feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar today. Drop them in the chat and we will get to them as we get through. But don't hesitate to go ahead and start asking those questions whenever they pop up for you. So here's what the scheduled recurring questions look like. So again, this is going to be in your non-transaction section. And this is what the schedule looks like. You'll see the repeat. How often are they repeating? You can set this so that if it's, you want it to repeat every quarter, you can set it to repeat every 3 months. When the next one is due to populate, you can edit it here. You can update questions. You've got tags. So this is just a quick preview of ones that have been created and already scheduled. And this is something that you set individually for each client, so you can get as customized as you'd like there.
So this is one area that we want to share. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Okay, we'll bounce back and forth on this one. So we've got a couple of quick tips here. So again, you can use this for all different things, but we have seen the best success when you do one request per recurring question. So it's inevitable, or at least more likely, that if you had, hey, share the statements across these different accounts for this month in one single question, then somebody might upload that first one and the question disappears, and then they forget to go back for part 2 or 3. So we've seen most success with 1 per question, and then that way they'll get reminded if there is one of those that got forgotten or that they need to circle back around to. You also want to set the date for after those statements are available. Just strategically within the month, we want to make sure that when that client sees the question and goes to process it or grab it for you so that you can have it, we want to make sure that they're not having to do that work and go in and see that it's not there yet. That just leads to more it's more common that somebody's going to forget to circle back around. So Jody, I'll let you take the last couple here.
Yeah. Well, it's really important to note that the reoccurring questions drop into the portal only. So this is just populating those questions and automatically dropping them into the portal so they're ready for your client to see next time they log in. It's important to note that they will not get an automatic reminder or a notification about those when they drop in. That will be something that we'll talk about in our next feature coming up here shortly, but just a really key thing there to note that this reoccurring questions drops into the portal.
Yeah, and I'll actually kind of transition nicely into addressing Regina's comment in the chat too. This is a GIF of how to create the question. So we're just gonna let it play on loop. But something important to remember about Keeper when you're thinking about client communication is we try to be really specific with our language, meaning tasks are internal in Keeper. So tasks are things that you're going to assign to yourself or other users in Keeper. For clients, everything is a question. So it's either going to be a transaction question, which you can assign to a specific transaction as you're going through those reports, or it's going to be a non-transaction question, which is what we're setting up here. So you may think of it mentally as a task, the task being, I need you to upload your bank statement, but in Keeper, we call that a non-transaction question. Or you can also kind of think of it as a request. So in Keeper, tasks are internal only for Keeper users. Anything we're putting in the client portal is a question. So to set up these recurring questions from your close page, I will also take a moment to pause and we'll show you in a live account how to do this. But how you get to this GIF is that client communication tab, which is kind of behind, it's kind of grayed out right now behind this. And so once you click on recurring questions, then you can click on create questions and follow the steps here in this GIF. And as you can see, I just like Jody mentioned and Erica touched on, I did 1 bank statement in this request. That way, once they answered this question, it disappears and they know they've uploaded the Wells Fargo statement. We also have tags. Those are optional. When we walk through the client portal preview, you'll see how nicely those tags look when you are tagging the questions. So we encourage them, again, not necessary, but a nice thing to make things just look a little bit more clean and organized.
Beautiful. So with that, we'll take any questions about recurring questions, goofy language there, but any questions that you guys have or any comments about how to use these or where to set these up, we'll take now. Jody, in the meantime, let's pop over to a demo and do a quick intro into like how to do that live.
Sure. All right, so we'll jump into a client account here. And we're going to come up to our client questions. As we mentioned, it's going to be a non-transaction question. And when we're here, we'll come over to reoccurring questions. This is where we can schedule those. And you can add your subject, add your question, select your tag. Here's where you can choose that frequency and how often you want it to come through. So again, if it's quarterly, you'll set that for 3. If it's an annual, you can up that to 12 months to make that an annual request. And then you'll choose the date you want it to start on. If you ever need to edit them, you can come in here and edit easily there. And then when they drop in, you will see them. When that schedule comes up, you will see them drop in just like any other question here.
Yep. And one important piece to note on this, if you do have assignable questions turned on so that you can say, hey, I want this contact to answer this question, or this is for their VA, or this is for the owner, you can set those in the recurring questions as well. So that's just one of those kind of questions that we get often. So if you have that turned on, then when you create the recurring question, you'll be able to assign that as well.
Yeah. So that's right here if you have that turned on. Did we have any other questions so far? Okay, we'll pop back over to our slides here and we'll get on to the next one. So, oh, go ahead.
Yep, I did see one really quickly. So Regina asked, do you need to make recurring questions for each and every client? Currently, yes. So you'll need to set these up for each client because each request is going to be different. You want to list that statement name, or that payroll hourly sheet may be needed in a different frequency. So right now we set that client by client.
Okay, so our next feature that we're highlighting is auto reminders. This is a way to automate follow-ups for unanswered questions inside your portal. Now, we just talked about the reoccurring questions. Those will drop into the client portal, but they do not send out notifications. So partnering that or pairing that up with an auto reminder will help make sure that your client will see those. What they are, they're notifications. They get sent via email or text on the specific schedule that you set. There are specific templates that are used for that called reminder email or reminder text. You set the frequency for these at the practice level. So it'll be the same across any client that has it turned on, but you can enable that or turn that on and off at the client level. So it doesn't have to be turned on for everyone at once. You can continue to set that at a client by client basis and decide which client needs an email, which one needs a text, which one's getting both, or which aren't getting any at all.
Yeah, and one thing to clarify as well is this reminder only goes out if your client has unanswered questions. So let's say on the first of the month, you have your recurring questions set out to be added to the portal on the first of the month. If they then have reminders that go out the next Monday, for instance, they will get that reminder if they haven't had a chance to log into the portal to submit those bank statement requests. Once they do log in and submit those requests, they are no longer going to be receiving automatic reminders because they don't have anything to answer. So if they've taken care of everything they need to on their end, there's no reminder.
And I think that's just really helpful to remember, because I think a lot of us are worried about bugging our clients when we don't actually need something. So this is something that Keeper can help us figure out who needs a follow-up based on who has an open question. And again, with assignable questions turned on, if we have a question for one contact, but we don't for another, that person who does not have any open questions won't get a reminder. So really helpful to just lower our nerves there. That Keeper's going to help figure out who needs that reminder.
Yeah. And one thing I would add to that too is the reminder isn't listing out the questions for them in an email. The reminder, whether it's an email or a text message, is a call to action. And that call to action is to log into the portal. So it's a very simple reminder saying, hey, you have unanswered questions, please log in.
Yes. Great call out there. So this is when we see this come in handy the most, is during onboarding, because there's a lot of things that we're going to request. So having a reminder go out to our clients for any of those outstanding means that we don't have to be on like follow-up mode and having to check and see what we have and send our reminders. That sort of thing gets taken care of really nicely. This also helps in day-to-day bookkeeping, because then the transaction questions are less likely to stack up if our clients get a regular reminder as they have questions to pop in there, tackle them, and that sort of thing. Because I know one of the things that we hear all the time is that it's really overwhelming if a client logs in and sees 50 questions. So this is a way that as we're going through daily or monthly, those questions get answered rather than them all stacking up. And then, like we mentioned, these are a great way to kind of piggyback off of recurring questions and make sure that when those drop in, we don't also have to go in and do a manual follow-up and set ourselves a task to remember to send that. We can have the automated reminders piggyback and drop the client a reminder if they have any of those recurring that have dropped in.
So where you can set the frequency of your reminders is in your practice level settings. As a reminder, that is the gear icon in the upper right-hand corner of your Keeper screen. You should have access to that gear icon no matter what page you are in with inside Keeper, whether you're in your client list, whether you're in an individual client's close page. You should always be able to see that gear icon for your practice level settings as long as you are at an admin permission level. So if you are a standard user for your firm, you might not see the gear icon. But if you're a solo practitioner, you should definitely see that gear icon. If you have admin permissions, you should be able to see that. And once you click on that, you see your settings, and the client portal settings can be managed on the third tab down. So practice management, manage users, client portal, that purple highlight. And the first tab that will appear when you click on that is the reminders tab. By default, this is set to Mondays, once a week on Mondays at 8 a.m. Eastern time. You can change this if you would like it to go out on a different day of the week or a different time. You may do so. You can also adjust it if you'd rather have reminders go out monthly instead of weekly. If you would like to have weekly reminders, you can actually have up to 2 per week. So you can increase this. And where it says add another reminder, you can click there to add a second weekly reminder. If you don't see the button purple, if it's grayed out, sometimes you might have to click save the initial reminder and then it allows you to create the second one. It's like a little nuance, but once you have your first one saved, you should be able to create a second one. So for instance, a lot of people might like to do Mondays and Fridays, Tuesdays and Saturdays, whatever works best. Be aware that this is across all clients. So if you set your reminders, for instance, to go out Mondays and Fridays, every client who has questions that are unanswered will get that reminder on Monday and Friday if they still have questions unanswered on Friday. So this is the same across all clients.
All right, so at the client level, where you can enable them is in your portal settings. So again, this is on the client page. Go to portal settings under your contacts, and you can enable that here. So you have an option for email and an option for text. You can turn them both on or select one as needed. And again, this is client by client here based on what they prefer. Alternately, let's see.
And then if you're doing this in bulk, you can also do this from your practice settings, all client settings, and that first tab workflows, and scroll all the way over to the right, and you can enable text, email, both, and kind of go down the line of your client list. This can be really helpful, again, if you're just rolling out the portal or if you have a lot of new clients that you're going to set up. So just depending on what page is easier, you may do this on the client level because you're already in there, or you may want to do this on your practice settings level to be able to go down the list a little bit easier in bulk.
Yeah. Yes, let me open up the demo. Okay. So our first question is, can we give examples of tags and how they help? So, well, let me do this from the settings. So in our settings, under the client portal, we have a tab here for tags. So you can add these, you can edit the colors, use them as much as you'd like here. The default ones that come with it, statements, a very popular one. But what this does is it flags that question on the portal. So here is an annual question. This one's a statements question. So as your client is going through, they can see at a quick glance what that type of question is, depending on how you're using your tags.
And I think when we go through preview mode momentarily, it will show you what it looks like from the client's point of view, and it'll also make a little bit more sense.
Yes.
I can tackle this question. So are there plans to allow auto reminder frequency variations to be changed, unique for each client at the user level? So that is definitely a Canny. It's probably one of our more popular Cannies. If you're not familiar with Canny, that is the website we use to track our feature requests, create feature requests, and track them. Madison, if you don't mind dropping Canny into the chat, that would be great. And I can probably pull it up really quickly here and get that for you. And then just make sure when you find a Canny that you would like to also upvote, that you're adding your name and upvoting that. Therefore, you will be notified in the future if there's any status changes to that Canny. So I'm just looking for right now. I typed in customize notifications, customize client notifications, and I'm copying the link and I'm going to drop it in the chat right here. And you can see the option to upvote those feature requests in the upper left-hand corner of the Canny.
So there is a question about onboarding templates. Let's circle back around to that one at the very end, but we do kind of see and have flagged that question. And then Jody, do you mind going to all client settings just to show that page and how we have to scoot over to the right? So here's all your clients on that left-hand side. The scroll button is at the bottom, just in case you're looking for it. And then we can go back up to kind of look at which clients and set them up from there.
I'm happy to answer Debbie's question if you want to navigate, Jody. But you can change the status colors. So that's going to be under your practice level settings. And then you're going to go to workflows, which is the third tab over. And then you're going to click on close status options. And then once you click on the edit color column, which is the second from the right, that is where you can edit those. And same with tags too. And Kate will be going over your question momentarily as well about the new portal.
Perfect. So next up, we've got our client portal resources. So this is a really cool area of Keeper that we can put any common links that we need or any information. This can be a place in our portal that has kind of a brain dump of anything that may be needed for that client or act as a reference point.
I'm happy to talk through this. This is an example of what I have built out in mine. The way you're going to access this is when you are in your client's close page and you go to their portal settings. You will go to there's 3 tabs then underneath: the contacts, the notifications, and then resources. And you can template this, first of all, but then you can also individualize. So in this example, the things I templated for my clients are things like my contact info, because that's going to be the same for every client. I want them to know my website, my phone number, my address. I also have a Calendly link for them to schedule time with me. That's going to be the same. Receipts is something that I individualized for this client, because in this example, this client uses receipts. So I put a reminder in there about their forwarding email, as well as the practice phone number where they can text in those receipts. Underneath, I have important links. These are just random, whatever you think is best for your clients. Maybe they need a reminder about how to log into QBO, or maybe you use Google Drive to share files. Also, this is a great place to put the W-9 request link if you utilize Keeper's Prepare 1099s report. That is going to be unique per client. But what a lot of users will like to do is put that here in the resources and let their clients know, hey, that W-9 request link is unique to you. So as you hire vendors, even before they've hit that $600 threshold, feel free to share this link out with them, and you can proactively get that W-9 requested and stay on top of that throughout the year. So that's a really great use case for the resources tab. And then I also just have some video tutorials in here, which again, you can totally optional, but maybe you have a client that needs a little bit more handholding and would like that kind of refresher and that resource to always be readily available.
And there's honestly a lot you can include. Get as creative as you would like to. But again, think about this as a FAQ section that you can include things like those email addresses or phone numbers for receipts, like Lauren mentioned, those static vendor links, your info, scheduling links. You can even do things like important reminders about their annual renewal and what website to go to. Again, a lot of this can be thought about as, how can I give my clients a space where they can go look for a question rather than always asking me and sending me a separate email for the same exact link every time. We can even add things like resources. So if you create a video on travel and meals and how to take care of those or how to submit those, or if you have a really good resource from the IRS, even maybe for personal versus business expenses, again, think about this as what's going to be helpful for this client, both from a making it easier on you because they know best practices and they have a place to look for, as well as giving them kind of the next step on the journey and the next breadcrumb to learning more and more about their finances and how to tackle things.
Great. And I'm going to walk you through where to find those. So again, this gift starts with the close page. So at the top of the close page, you should see that portal icon. And once you click on that, then it should default to their portal settings. That is the default. And then again, you're going to go to the third tab over where it says resources. And you'll see you have some formatting options. You can make things headers. We do have the emoji option. And I personally really love hyperlinking a lot of things. That way you don't see this really long URL. You can select the text, highlight it, and then make that hyperlinked URL look a little bit cleaner. So a lot of formatting options here. Play around with it. And then you'll also see the option to template on the upper right-hand corner, that purple button where it says resource templates. So again, my recommendation for templating is template the things that are going to be the same across all clients, but definitely individualize things like that W-9 request link, receipts info, things like that.
Yeah, and because we have that rich text formatting where you can highlight or make things a different color, you can even add a little reminder to yourself to add the receipts email here or remove it, that sort of thing, just to give yourself the closest version and flag where you may need to customize.
And this is just a sneak peek of in your templates area. So your template manager, you have options across the top here. It defaults to the task template. But if you'll come over to the resources template, this is where you can house any templates you'd like to create.
Okay, so Jody, might be a good time to navigate over to the demo. And we have a question about, would the resources tab be a good place to add table of contents for SOPs for your own business? So if you have your business set up in Keeper as a client, that's a really good question. I think our personal suggestion would, if that's an intuitive place for you to find it, sure. I actually, and we kind of really love the SOP integration and checklist within the Keeper tasks. So if you have yourself set up as a client in Keeper, then maybe you add tasks where you have checklists underneath them of how to tackle some of those items. So that would be probably our best suggestion about where to keep your SOPs. Again, I think it's personal preference. So if your mind immediately goes to the client portal, use what your brain is thinking about. But this is one of our favorites because there's so much flexibility and the ability to add due dates and have them as a part of your tasks.
If they are more general SOPs that you're using across your business for all clients, another creative place we've seen housing those would be under firm tasks. You can create best practices or information and be able to have this as a kind of a hub for you and your team to be able to come to. So that is another idea, another option for internal processes.
And then especially for this one, let's show the template manager. I saw one question come through about where to create those templates.
So
By
from
the
your
way,
client page, or go ahead.
Really quickly, the question that's on the screen, can you show us the client view? That's what we're going to touch on next. So we'll get there in just a sec.
Perfect. Thanks, Lauren.
So here's your templates manager. Again, it defaults to tasks. So if you come over, you'll have resources here, and you can add new, build that out however you'd like, save those for specifics as needed. And then you can apply those to clients from here as well.
And like Jody showed on that screen, you can create different variations. So if you have a lot of clients in a certain area, or you want to create a clients with payroll or clients that are using receipts version to, again, have less that you have to tweak as you're onboarding, great way to do that because you can duplicate within that template and create a different version really easily.
Mm-hmm. And when you're on your client page, come up here to portal. Again, it defaults to those portal settings. On contacts, your resources tab is here. You can pull in a template and then you can edit as well. And once you're at this level, so once you're inside of a client, this is specific to this client.
Yep, absolutely. And I did see one question about, or a statement more from Amanda about her clients never going over to the resources tab. Our next feature is actually how to see your client's view. So we'll hang on to that for 2 seconds. But one thing that I've seen work really well is to put a little reminder in your client portal announcement on the front dashboard to remind them any FAQs or email addresses or links that you may need will be on your resources tab. That's also something you can cover in your kickoff call to kind of get people acclimated with, hey, there is stuff over in this side or in this tab. So a couple of different options there to make that a little bit easier.
I'm checking out sorry, I was looking at 2 things at once. The email. Let me see if I can find a canny for that. Let me clarify that question. If you want to request the vendor's email, we do have a templated question to ask your client. When you're within the 1099 report, you can ask the client for the vendor's email. And if they provide it, then you can send the W-9 request to the vendor. Feel free to clarify if I'm missing what you were asking. And then Jody, do you mind showing the template manager again really quickly?
Yes.
Just like everything in Keeper, multiple places you can access it. So starting on the client list.
Yep. So this is your client list. Some call this a dashboard. Right across the very top here, you have templates. So that's going to pop up the template manager. If you are inside of a client, you can still jump to that by coming here to this drop down next to the home button. The home will take you back to the client list, but if you select that drop down, you can come down to templates and it will pull that template manager window up here as well. Okay. Should we move on to the last one?
Yeah.
Or second to last one.
Perfect. So there is a way to see what your clients are going to see, whether you're using this in a kickoff call or you're actually showing live, or maybe you need to screenshot and send an email so somebody can figure out where they're supposed to go to actually find your questions or find those resources. So like I mentioned, this can be really helpful in kickoff calls to actually pull up that preview, be able to show people kind of a static view without having to add yourself as a contact. So this is a really cool way to just preview. It's also really helpful to just double check and make sure that you got everybody set up correctly. Can somebody see files and financials? Could if we want them to, but if it's a limited view like somebody's VA, we may not want them to. So this is just a really quick way to double check and make sure everything's shown correctly. And then inevitably, we always get client questions about, hey, I got an email that I have questions in there, but I can't see any of them. So just helping our clients navigate and direct to where those different areas of Keeper are, especially when it comes to switching between businesses. Up at the very top and kind of toggling between, that can be a little bit difficult or may not be as intuitive. So we may want to show that as clients have questions in a different business that they need to go answer.
And we will pop into the demo here in just a moment, but wanted to give you a quick static look at what that preview looks like. So this would be a preview screen that overlays on top of your client page, and you can see exactly what that specific contact can see, including files, financial reports, if they have it turned on, or if they don't, that will change the view here. But this would be exactly what your client is seeing. And where to access that. On the client page, under your portal settings, there's a little preview column with a little eyeball there to click on, and it's going to overlay that screen. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo to show this live as well.
Yeah, this is, quick little GIF, but I think it's going to make a little bit more sense for Jody to dive in.
Yeah. So from your client page here, you'll go up to portal and pick the contact that you want to preview. So you'll see that here we've got 3 different contact access. So Erica's contact here does not have files or financials turned on. So when we preview what she would see when she logs in, you'll notice that files is missing. And if we scroll down, there's not financial access to those statements either. So you will see that specific contact, what they see there. And same here, no files, but this one has financial reports available. And this is a live active view. So if they have questions in the portal that are currently unanswered, you can see exactly what they're seeing and you can tab through this. So when they log in, this is their dashboard. Everything that they're going to see, your portal announcement is down here. Those transaction questions, non-transaction questions. So if you are in a meeting with a client and they're having trouble with their client portal, you can show them this preview and let them see exactly what to do. Show them, answer here. If there's an attachment, you can click on, identify what that would be for them. let them know, hey, if you have questions for us, this is where you do that. That resources tab is here. So if you have this turned on and set up for your client, this is what that will look like on their end.
And one thing to note too, do you mind going back to the non-transaction questions? Circling back on those tags, what's helpful is, do you see there's a filter on the upper left-hand corner? If your client was like, okay, I need to see a list of all my statements, if they type in statement and hit enter, it should then filter out all of the statements. So you can also show them tips and tricks like that. And it's also tying back to those tags. And now you can see what we mean by how neat and organized that looks with the statements. Exactly what Jody was saying. They can see a list of each account that they need to upload. So once they upload the statement for whatever that account is, like let's say the BOA, it's going to disappear. So they know they've already uploaded BOA. The other thing to note about recurring questions is they date themselves. I neglected to go over that when I was talking about how to create them. But as a reminder, when you're creating the question, you're telling Keeper what date you want it to appear in the portal. You don't have to put the date in the question itself, because as you can see, they date themselves. So your client can see, oh, shoot, I need to upload BOA from April 15th. They also, if you scroll down, they can see, oh, shoot, there's one from March 15th too. So they can not only see the exact accounts that need to be uploaded, but the dates that it needs to be uploaded. So the questions date themselves when they're added to the portal. So that can help them kind of sift through those questions as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm glad that you touched on that as well, because I love that visual aspect of being able to help our clients filter and sort, and on a quick view, figure out what they need to answer and kind of get a bit of visual, similar to how we can use tags on our tasks. This is really cool to be able to let our clients use that as well.
And while we're here, we can go ahead and open up Q&A on this feature. I did see one in the chat that asked if clients can see resolved questions, and they can. So right here across the top, they've got needs your input. So these are all the ones that are open. That's what it's going to default to. But they also have the ability to see the ones that they've answered. And I'll uncheck that one so we can see what that looks like. So they can see what they've answered. And then any that have been resolved, they can also see those if they toggle it on. So they do have access to see that from their end. I think many people just need it pointed out that they have to check that box to be able to see them.
And the way I like to explain resolved to users is we recommend marking it resolved if there's no action needed on you, the bookkeeper or accountant's end, and there's no action needed on the client's end. That's what I recommend thinking about for resolved.
And there's a question about, is there any way to give individual employees or contacts in this case access to some files, but not all of them? There's probably a canny request out there. It is not currently within Keeper's functionality. And this is a really good question about when you add a state-specific template to the resource section and you were to apply that template, does it override or does it add it to the bottom? Lauren, feel free to update if there has been something that I haven't seen, but from what I remember, this is a all or nothing where the template will overwrite, not add to. Lauren, is that correct from your understanding? I believe there is a canny out there, but I don't know that I've seen any updates on that feature specifically yet.
Yeah, I know with tasks, it will, if it's not an exact match for the task title, then it will add it on. But if it's an exact match, it will override. So I can triple check on that, but
this is also something that we can do a little bit of troubleshooting and testing behind the scenes. This is one of our favorite things to do. So if nothing else, we'll go back in the top YouTube comment and let you know how that worked either way. That's an easy one to circle back to in the comments once it gets posted. Oh, great question about how did you set up the announcement in the client portal? Like we mentioned about how to direct your clients there, but how do you set that up?
So to set up a client portal announcement, this is going to be a practice level setting. So you're going to come up to the practice settings, come to your client portal, and then right here in the middle, client portal announcement. And you do have several options here. There is one that you can turn on for the login screen. And that would show, oh, I can't preview, that's going to be on branding. So you have one that you can plug in here for your client login page. You have one that's inside that client portal. This is the one that you saw in the preview. And again, this is going to be the same announcement across all clients. So your resources tab is where you can customize client by client. Your portal announcement is going to be the same. It's a firm-wide for every client. That portal announcement will be there. If you have anybody that's been archived, you also have an option here for an archived announcement as well. So you do have several available to you here. And as you're testing these out or as you're building them out, if you want to see what they look like, you can come over to the branding tab and then scroll down and you'll be able to see that like on your login page. If you had the announcement, you'd be able to see that there.
And I already have an answer. It will override. And I am so silly. I should have known this because there's a pop-up. So if you were to apply a template, you get a pop-up that says, "Are you sure applying this template will overwrite all resources content for the selected clients? Are you sure you want to continue?" Learn more about how template applications work here. And then there's a hyperlink. So I was just focused on the task.
Great to know. Thanks for testing that out.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect. And especially, I think as new features get rolled out, there's slight differences between the two. So I'm glad you could do a quick test there and make sure that we gave everybody the most accurate answer. I love that.
Yeah. And I just showed it on the screen as well, what that "Are you sure" is going to look like when you go to apply it.
Yep, absolutely. Lauren, this may be a good time to do a quick overview of the difference between Client Portal 1.0 and 2.0. I know that Ben may talk about this on the Catch Up with Keeper next Tuesday, but this may be a good time to just do a preview since we were talking about what that looks like.
Yeah. So the overall summary is that Client Portal 2.0, I believe, has been at this point in time forced on everyone, or it's about to be. You might have gotten a pop-up saying it's coming.
30th is
Yes,
the
30th,
pop-up
great.
date.
I know we've played around with the due date before, so it's official. We're saying by the 30th, so next Wednesday, a week from today. If you have not already upgraded to Portal 2.0, you will automatically be upgraded. No major differences. It's mostly UI. So a few call outs are for, we talked about seeing the question statuses like waiting on client, answered, resolved. Version 1.0, clients couldn't see resolved questions. Version 2.0, they can now see those resolved questions. So it's little changes like that. And as you can see stylistically, it's a little bit more kind of designed to be a thread around each question, where you can have the back and forth kind of more organized with each question, within each question itself. So there's no major differences. Everything still functions the same in terms of basic portal. You still have to add the questions to the portal. You still have to then notify the client that they have new questions, whether it's a manual notification or an automatic reminder. So none of the basic functionality has changed. It's mostly just visual and the UI component to it. So I personally recommend going ahead and upgrading. The one thing that you can flag is a lot of you have made comments about you make looms or you take screenshots for your clients. You will probably want to update those just because it looks slightly different.
And I think one other call out, Jody, if you could go to the portal settings and do a quick preview. Our demo is a bit ridiculous, so your clients won't likely see this. But if you were to preview that client portal, you will see an action needed bar, which is one of the newer updates that your clients may notice is this action required underneath. So we've been playing around with organizers. You will not likely see this many. But again, that's just a way to kind of direct clients to the areas that need attention at this moment and have open items. So that's one of the bigger kind of stylistic changes as well that we just want to call out.
And then Jody, do you mind just quickly showing again where to go to make that upgrade if folks want to take care of that?
Yep. So it's going to be in your practice settings under client portal, and that's going to be on the branding tab here.
Mm-hmm. One thing to note is if you are on Keeper Standard, you will not see branding as that is part of Keeper Premium. So the number one way to quickly figure out if you're on standard versus premium is when you open up your client portal settings, you won't see time tracking. And then additionally, when you come to the client portal, you won't see the branding tab. If you would like to upgrade to premium, the easiest way to do that is to reach out to our live chat support in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And you'll either get in touch with Grace or Kason, and they can assist with getting you upgraded. And then you will see the option to brand. So not only can you upgrade to the new portal version, but you can also upload your logo and make things look beautiful. So.
Great call out there. That's one that we get asked about a lot is like, wait, I don't see that button. That would be why.
Yeah.
So
when you
Jody,
do get to the branding
I
tab, I was going to say, when you do get to the branding tab, you'll see version 1.0 here and the drop down an option to upgrade to 2.0. Ours has already been there, so it doesn't have that. But this is where you would see that show.
Great call out there. So let's actually skip over to slide 41, Jody. Since we're close on time, I want to make sure that anybody gets any kind of help if they need it. And then we'll have to save this for episode 3. So just a quick reminder about any HSE services. If you do want more support and kind of like these dive into a feature, how are people using it in the community, how do we set it up, we do have a monthly Q&A where we explore new features, we can talk about troubleshooting or best practices like we did here today. If you're one who has Keeper set up and you've been using it for a while, but you want a second set of eyes on troubleshooting an issue that you're having or trying to figure out how to make it, how to utilize more of it, we can definitely take a look at your individual account and give you recommendations that are going to work for you instead of just broad recommendations about kind of different tips and tricks. And then we have plenty of workflow templates and can offer support all the way up to hands-on setup. So definitely here any step of the journey that you find yourself on, if you like this thing, this style of learning more about Keeper or want help with your account on any level. And then we just have a quick QR code for if you do want to reach out and learn a little bit more about our services, or if you want to go to a Keeper freebies page, we do have some resources about getting your client portal set up, or that's how you can sign up for this free Q&As.
And I do want to call out one thing. We're going to try to get through as many questions as we can. We're coming up on time. If you asked a question and it wasn't answered, I'd also encourage you to reach out to our live chat support. I do want to call out that when you initially submit a question, a bot will answer your question. You always have the option to talk to a person. So if you get that bot response, if you don't reply, we're going to essentially, the system assumes your question was answered. You can always say talk to a person or literally just type in anything. And then our support staff, Grace and Kason, Grace is in the middle, Kason's over there on the right. They will see your message and get back to you. It just depends on the time of the day, our volume. Sometimes you might have a 15-minute estimate. You might have sometimes upwards of an hour if there's a high volume or someone's out. But that being said, there are real humans that see those chats. And Sage is on there. He's not manning the chat though, but you'll see his face in our YouTube channel. Sometimes you'll see my face there. But it's Grace and Kason for the most part. Sometimes Ben Stein himself might even pop in there. So a lot of the questions I'm seeing in the question section can be answered. And also a lot of them I'm noticing, oh, we can't do that quite yet. It might be a canny. They can send you the canny, get you the information you need or the current workaround. So really encourage you guys to use that too. If it's like a very quick question, can Keeper do X, Y, Z?
Great call out there, Lauren. I get that question all the time of like, how do I reach out to support? And how do I figure out if this is a bug or what to try if something's not working? So we always love that Keeper chat in the very bottom, but sometimes people don't notice that button. So Lauren, we do have a question from Kelly. I think we can get to really quickly.
Yeah.
Can you remove or delete a resolved question?
So that's the one I was looking into for you, Kelly. You cannot delete it currently. I do believe that you can have the portal settings where your clients can't see the resolved questions. Yes. So you can reopen it. And if you reopen it, you guys can reply to the thread, add to the thread. And you can, yeah. And then it's a little, yeah, perfect. And then you can delete it if they haven't responded yet. So that's a good clarification. So if the status of the question is waiting on the client, they haven't seen it, they haven't answered it, you can delete it. So if you want the question completely gone, I would recommend, and they haven't answered, delete it, don't resolve it. If you want a record that you asked it but you were able to like figure it out on your own, you can mark it as resolved. But as it is right now, it's a little difficult. It's not. Our assumption, the reason why is that if you've resolved it, meaning there was a question, it was answered, you want to track that. So that's why.
Yeah, and just keep that like running log or what would previously be a paper trail. Exactly.
Yeah. I think if the client has responded is the key point, because this one is marked as resolved, but the client has not responded. So if you wanted that one deleted, you could.
Yes, sorry.
Once the client has responded, that option goes away.
It's based on the client's action, not the status.
Right. See, that's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Lauren, did you see any more questions come through? I didn't on my end.
No, something else I was going to call out is I made him, I'm going to say December, January. It is with Portal 2.0. I made some very generic looms of client portal tutorials using my own dummy account. So they're not branded to firm specifics, but we'll put those in the YouTube description if you'd like to have those tutorials that are version 2. I have one for the mobile app and I have one for the website. So I'm happy to drop those in the YouTube comments as well if you'd like to steal those. And I think that's it on me. And by the way, I'm going to put my email in the chat. You guys are welcome to email me if you have questions as well, if you want to contact at Keeper. My last name is in my email, but also if you don't want to deal with my last name and just do Lauren at Keeper, I will get that email too. Just calling that.
Awesome. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up and give everybody their Wednesday back. Thank you again for joining us, whether you're joining us live and got to interact or watching the recording afterward. We really appreciate you spending a little bit of your Wednesday with us and learning a little bit more about Keeper.
Thanks, everyone.